Welcome to Absolutely Not, the live podcast series dedicated to providing examples of setting personal boundaries at work and the vocabulary needed to name harm in those spaces. Thank y'all so much for being here today. I'm so grateful to everyone who continues to show up and grow the Absolutely Not community. I cannot thank y'all enough. The vocab words for this episode are xenophobia, racism, and accountability. These words and their definitions can be found on the resources page of my website. Feel free to reach out if you'd like more words added. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp allows you to connect with one of 24,000 licensed therapists in a safe and private online environment. You pay just a low, flat fee for unlimited therapy with your therapist. Visit www.betterhelp.com/absolutelynot for more information and to get 10% off your first month. Today's episode is titled, Youth Don't Owe You Anything. Oh, yes, we're going to get into it because that message is brought to you specially by my guest, Xin Yi. Hailing from Southeast Asia, she is an inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, social justice practitioner specializing in facilitation and data analysis. She's also the co-founder of the Asian Accountability Circle, a space for Asian and Asian Americans to cultivate solidarity through accountability mechanisms. Ooh, a strong advocate for a more equitable way of work, she believes that talent and expertise is not solely measured by the number of years a person has accrued, but rather through the contributions and skills one has developed and unlimited by a person's age. Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Katrina, and my apologies for the long introduction.
No, that was a fire bio. Did you write that? That's an amazing bio.
I did. It took me a few iterations, but I got there.
Yeah, that is good. Okay, but we are here to talk about youth, young people, not owing anybody shit. Why are we here to talk about that today?
Yeah, we're here to talk about that because I'm inspired by my personal experience of the difficulty of finding a job as a graduate. And it turns out that I'm not the only one. So I'm really active on LinkedIn and often networking with folks who are not just already far along in their career, but also graduates like myself. They're like, yeah, it's difficult. And it doesn't matter if I'm international or an American student. People are just finding it difficult to get a job. And I'm not sure your audience has, but I'm sure you have seen all those memes, right? About entry-level role requires 3 to 10 years of experience. What's that about? What's that about? So, and your podcast series talks about boundaries. And so I'm here to talk about how youth really don't owe you anything.
Ooh, I love that. There's a lot of things that are expected from young people. What boundaries have you been setting to make sure that people who expect that from you know that you won't be accommodating that expectation?
That's a great question. I think one of the ways I've come to do that is by speaking my mind. It doesn't mean, to say that, I don't owe you anything. Of course not. But telling them in a way of like, I've seen your job description and I think that I have all that it takes for the responsibilities for this role. I'm curious how you have arrived at needing 3 to 10 years of experience. And also the second way I kind of set a boundary too almost is playing the game in a way, right? I think students always disregard their experience while they're students. But while you're a student, if you've been running a student leader organization, that's years of experience. And I think that because we are taught so much in school that being a student equates to 0 experience at work, that we don't put that in our resumes. So those are 2 of the ways I set boundaries around that. And it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy setting boundaries because coming from an Asian culture, we are taught that being young is not worth anything. Being young is only worth time in a sense of like subordinating to someone at work, subordinating even to our elders, right? Not responding, or not saying not responding, but not talking back. And talking back in that definition means whatever your elders say at work or at home, you just say yes. You don't ask why, you don't explore, you don't talk about it, you don't have discourse. So yeah, I feel like the past year too, we have discovered that work is personal, right? And personal is work too, and it shows up at work. So that's why I mentioned that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and also diving into your personal culture, how it affects the relationships you're cultivating at work. With that culture in mind, where you have to respect elders and create no discourse, has that type of culture cultivated healthy relationships at work?
Honestly, no. And that's kind of like what pushed me to come to the United States. You are good at investigation. Yeah, it didn't really develop great work relationships because boundaries almost don't exist. Boundaries are rude. Boundaries are non-existent. And what's mental health? Like if you have depression or if you face tough things at work, just take it. And it's part of you being an early career professional. And so yeah, I came to the States with a goal of understanding better if that is a universal truth. And I'm glad to see that it's not, despite, and that's not to say that, American work culture has no fallacies. There are, but overall, at least, we have folks like you who are talking about mental health, talking about boundaries. So yeah.
I am amazed at your ability to say, kind of, I want more. I want to know more about this. I want to know if there's a healthier way to move around in my work. You did mention that there's an ideal or a culture that's cultivated around this is just what's part of your first few years of it. You got to grind, you got to hustle, you got to. When was kind of the first time you were made aware of that kind of unwritten rule that this is a part of what it takes to move forward?
Oh, I think it's so ingrained from when we are even like high school students, right? Or even back home, what our parents tell us. I think one of my earliest memories is being taught the fact that if I work hard, I'll get somewhere. If I just put in enough effort, that I'll get what I want. And if I don't reach what I want, that just means that I'm not working hard enough, or that just means that I'm not doing it right. And it might be a tangent here, but I think one example I can give is that when I was in school, I'm very much the person I am now, right? And in school in Singapore, specifically, I have professors, even peers who are ironically mostly men, tell me that, if you be gentler, if you be more feminine, if you be less straightforward, maybe people will help you along your way. And that actually, I took a big heat basically. And after so many years of trying to fit myself into that mold, I was like, I think there's more out there. And so to answer your question, I think it's pervasive. I cannot really name like a starting point of where I got this concept towards hustle culture and towards work ethic, but it's definitely something that's so integrated and ingrained into the system.
I cannot thank you enough for breaking that down. I'm trying really hard to swallow my tears because a lot of us who are, I saw a meme about this, like a lot of us who were star blocks, we are star blocks. We can't possibly, like we have never ever been anything other than star blocks, and they have consistently tried to put us in square blocks. And we just have never, ever, ever fit. And I drank the Kool-Aid, I did all of the things, and it just did not work out. I could not help but be a star. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that you are still a star block, and of course there's square holes everywhere, and there are people that are probably still trying to make you be a square till this day. Is there anything, or is there anyone in your life right now who is consistently helping you stay a star?
Oh, I love the energy. I think one of the people that has helped me with that is my supervisor when I was a D&I scholar at work. So Cameron Brighter, shout out to you. They were, or they still are, someone that I trust that I can go to even after I graduated. And they showed me that it's okay to be me. Like you mentioned, like it's okay for me to be a star. It's okay for me to have different opinions, even from my D&I peers. And I think that there is also the element of coming from Southeast Asia. D&I is a foreign concept, right? As you can imagine, if we don't have boundaries, which means that no one is really questioning the system, then we don't even talk about the inequities within the system. So coming here, I remember one of the first questions I asked in the office to Cam is, so what is reverse racism, right? And in today's times, if I ask that question on LinkedIn, I would be gone, y'all. I would probably have to be sent home. Nobody wants to hire me for any D&I jobs. But they took the effort, they took the effort to explain and also ask me questions to help me, to guide me along. And alongside that, also exploring beyond my career, helping me with establishing a greater relationship with money, for example, greater relationship with myself, right? And I think then being that person where I can be vulnerable and say the most quote unquote damning things has allowed me to develop that star within and almost to speak to my inner child and say that, it's okay. It's okay. And the things that I've gone through when I was younger, that's a reason why that has happened, and to learn from that and to use that as motivation for me to tell youths in America and also back home that you can dream and you can get there. And it's difficult, but sometimes the best person who knows what is best for you is you, not your parents, not, in my case, not even Cam, right? Myself. And so having to reconcile with that too, I think is one of the takeaways for me on this journey, and also for the youths out there.
Okay, I will talk to my inner child later because she needs a hug apparently. But I love your use of the word reconsult. I think often we are getting consultations on a daily basis through social media, through other people we're in relationship with, through the leaders in our organizations. I have had to set really strict boundaries on what consultations I'm taking on. Have you set any boundaries lately around the types of messages or consultations you're getting externally?
That's a very good question. I would say not boundaries setting right off the bat, but so I've taken this project, and halfway through the project, I had to express my disappointment in the way they have not set the boundary, because I'm not the lead in the project, right? I'm a part of the support, and having to communicate with the lead that, based on my knowledge of you, of the team, of the project, and of what your organization stands for, I don't feel protected. I don't feel like I was stood up for. And that's a very difficult process, and I've come to realize that only when I'm in that situation. I think when the audiences hear this, when the youth hear this, or even when veterans in their fields hear your episode, like this episode, they probably were like, yes, I will communicate with my supervisor or my team lead about how I feel. But when it comes to that moment, right, it can be so difficult because you have at least for me, I have so much fear. I have fear of like them kicking me out of the team. I have fear of like them receiving my message in a different way that I intended for them to receive it. So many fears, right? But ultimately, I think that boundaries is self-love at the very core, and it's self-respect. And so if I respect and love myself, then I need to do that. I need to do that for me. And I need to do that also on the basis of good faith, that they hired me because they saw me for my authentic self. And this is my authentic self, right? And so I think that's another lesson I learned. And it's a teacher, coach, mentor in me that always summarizes things as lessons. But another lesson that I've learned that I almost wish I had known when I was younger is the least you can do in terms of boundary setting is being yourself and speaking your mind, because you wouldn't want to act like you're someone else and then get the opportunity and having to continuously put on that front. And I think this relates directly to, when we are in school, a lot of like career advisors will advise us, wear suit and tie, speak quote unquote proper English, don't color your hair and things like that. But if that's not you, right, and if you're not speaking the way you authentically speak, then imagine when you do get that job, even if it's a dream job at a dream company, you will not be yourself. And how tiring would that be? So
thank you so much for talking about that, because I remember having somebody who was helping me transition from the military, and one of the things they told us was make sure you it was a Black woman, she said make sure you wear a wig to the interview, then when you get the job you can wear your hair. I was like, that and I got the job, but as soon as I started wearing my hair, I would get the questions, I would get so extra work when I could have just But I also love that you talked about you wish you knew this before, when you were afraid to set that boundary, or when you kind of get that, I don't know how they're going to perceive that. A really good skill I've learned lately is the power in the pause. Just like, okay, I will take a step back. I will go journal about it. I will go process this in my own time and come back to these people, because immediately I feel that, okay, these people want to fight me. They're trying to disrespect me in this space. Something has to happen on my end, but it's not always the case. So the power in the pause is huge for me. Is there any skills like that, maybe journaling or meditation or anything in that lane that you've been doing recently to ensure you know exactly how you're going to set this boundary and who you're going to set it with?
I think one of it is something similar as yours, which is the pause. I think growing up in the hustle culture, which I think every one of us did, especially millennials, I still remember Facebook having those memes of like, don't be a sheep, be a lion kind of thing, like sleep is for the weak, like kind of thing, which, I'm pretty sure those who know will know. But what I'm trying to say is hustle culture does not just affect how we show up at work, but also the habits we have, right? And one of the habits is if someone offers us, for example, a compensation package, right, offers us a job, the tendency is to be like, okay, I need to answer straight away. And oftentimes we don't. And it's something that I realized recently, that I can take a pause, even if it's just a breath, right? Or I can even say, I need some time to think about this, right? This is a major decision, or I'm simply not in the right state of mind. So can I take a day to think about it? Like, I think it's so, like, it's not even an option that our brains are exposed to, and so that's one of the habits I have. Journaling as well. I bought this thing called a passion planner, and it has helped me so much because it has a good things that happen, and I put one good thing that happen every day, even if it's just having waking up and feeling refreshed, right? And so I think having a good organization system that can help you journal and also keep your thoughts organized and tasks organized is so helpful in making sure that we don't feel overwhelmed, or making sure that we don't feel, more importantly to the topic, inferior or less than, because we have so much to offer. I think youth are so underestimated, not just in the DEI space, but in every other field that they want to go to. We have time, and I think people underestimate time. I feel like they are like, oh, you have no experience, so the only thing you have is time, and time is worthless. I'm like, tell that to a 60-year-old who wants to change fields. I mean, they can pivot their careers, but how long more do they have to pick up skills and all the development necessary to be good at their job compared to a 20-year-old, right? And so also, if we want to talk about ageism, we should talk about ageism on both ends too, not just that folks at a later stage of their life not getting opportunities, but also folks who just started their work life do not get opportunities that they deserve. And so to answer your question, journaling and pausing, and also this is probably not a habit. Well, I guess it is. So establishing a supportive community. I think my community consists of people like you, like Cam, like Daisy Carson, so on and so forth. And I think especially for youth, when we look at social media, it's important for us to curate our feed. You don't have to know that person, but what that person posts has to be of benefit to you, right? I think so many people follow folks like Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, what's that lady's name? She's so popular, but basically I kind of like followed them at the start, but I kind of stopped following them, not necessarily because they're not beneficial, but because it's just something about their leadership advice that doesn't really sit well with me, right? For example, they don't acknowledge the inequities in the system. They don't acknowledge that people with different identities can have obstacles that others don't have to face, right? And so really curating your feed on that note, to pause, and every time you see something pop up, be like, is this person serving me, serving my mental health, my career, or overall my emotional state? And if they're not, we can always mute them and come back later, or just unfollow them. I think that's something that I feel like is so not talked about that we should.
And social media is a great place to build community. That's where I meet all these amazing people. That's where I get to meet amazing people doing amazing work. But as we grow and develop and learn more skills around boundaries, learn more skills around self-development, we're able to say, well, that person no longer fits into the skills I now have, or the journey that I'm going on now. I used to talk about smoking weed and drinking. I don't do that anymore. I now talk about boundaries and the workplace and abuse and discrimination. So I could not possibly still have that on my time feed, because what is it doing for me? And I think that's a really hard thing for people to hold on to or grasp onto, myself included. It's hard to let go of people. It's hard to let go of habits. It's hard, but it takes a lot of introspection. And it sounds like you've done so much introspection in yourself and just like set personal boundaries internally. Are there any internal boundaries right now that you're kind of struggling with and want to share with the audience?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one of the boundaries that I'm still struggling with after all this time is not tagging my worth with how packed my schedule is. It's very difficult to tell myself that, my Wednesday has close to 0 meetings, and that's okay. It's so difficult to say that I'm still worthy even though I do not have a steady income. I'm still worthy even though I do not receive attention. I am worthy even though my schedule looks like someone who's retired. And that's perfectly fine. There are definitely times I struggle with that. And especially when now I'm in the job search process, pushed by the visa, right? Talking about xenophobia. That sometimes it can feel very difficult to stay motivated and stay confident. I feel like boundaries at the end of the day also give us confidence. And so yeah, and also remembering that this system is meant to wear people like us down. And if I were to be worn down at my age, then like what good will I serve people and what good will I serve myself, right? And so yeah, taking the time to think about that. And also to the youths out there, young professionals, or anybody who have paid time off, like take that time off, you know. And for people who are job searching as well, I know many people in my network are, you will have 5 decades to work. You know, you will have the rest of your life to work. If you can take a break now, take a break. Work is still gonna be there.
I hope y'all heard that. Take a break. Just, it's gonna be there. We talk about often on this show extracting our worth from our work. I have not broken down to that boundary before, the looking at my calendar, and because I feel it every time I only have one meeting. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why do we not have a client? Like, what, we need to figure out something to do for the day. And I think I'm going to have a conversation with myself around like, yo, it is okay to not be booked and busy. It is okay to sit your ass down and maybe process, get ready for the next day. We do not have to be busy all the time. Okay, thank you for that. Once again, another conversation I have to have with myself. But are there any ways you could think of that organizations that leaders in organizations who may be listening to this can promote healthier relationships and encourage their employees to set more boundaries at work?
Oh, that's a good question. Not directly, but indirectly rather, review your policies to really understand what message you're driving home to the employees. Like, for example, the trend now is unlimited paid time off, right? But if a culture doesn't nurture that trust, if there's already existing problems of supervisors or mid-level managers micromanaging their team, what makes you think that people will make use of the unlimited paid time off, right? And so reviewing policy and relationship of policy with your culture, I think will be the most helpful. And that shouldn't sound abstract to you at all. If that sounds abstract to you, fellow leaders of organizations, then it's time, like Katrina said, to have a chat with yourself and chat with your board of advisors, because it's not.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for bringing that into this space. I think so often people are thinking it's only the people, we have to change out the people. But if you have policies in place that are cultivating that culture, I remember when I was an aviation mechanic, we had this big board and it said, it has been 967 days since we've had a safety accident. But that's cultivating a culture of us hiding safety accidents or hiding or doing the quickest way out so we don't have an accident happen, or not telling our supervisor what happened because we'll mess up that board. So yeah, those types of policies or reward systems in place really are cultivating culture. Y'all, just like, you need to go look at it when you have the time. I love everything we've talked about today. To wrap us out, are there any other what are the top 3 tips you'd like to share with young professionals who are just moving into their first jobs, or maybe still job searching, about setting personal boundaries at work and advocating for themselves?
Yeah, sure. So first off is understand where you have difficulty setting boundaries, you know, alongside the conversation that we have had, and work on that, because you don't want to go into a workplace knowing what you need to work on and not work on it, because then you'll just have less time for yourself. Second thing is set up an accountability mechanism for yourself, whether that's, you know, having, like, personally, I schedule a monthly chat with 1 or 2 folks who will hold each other accountable in terms of, like, not, you know, having a checklist, but rather be like, okay, so last month, you know, we talk about A, B, and C, and that you'll do A, B, and C. How's that going? And support one another, you know, and they don't have to be in your field. They just have to be someone you trust and that you feel you can have a mutual relationship with. And the third point is to stand strong in what you believe in and set your boundaries for your non-negotiables. I understand as someone who is job searching that there may be compromises you need to make in terms of your ideals. But once again, boundary setting is selfless and self-respect. And on that note, understand what you're going to compromise, how long you're going to compromise that for, and if you compromise on those values, what in exchange are you getting back? Are you getting back a specific skill? Are you getting back a network of folks in the industry? Years of experience is not enough. Okay, you can get your years of experience anywhere in any job, and that's not enough reasoning. And if I can add a bonus, would be invest in yourself. I think a lot of people think that boundary setting is something that you do on your own, but that can be done in a multitude of ways, like the first 3 tips that I mentioned, and also this bonus of investing in a coach or even a therapist, right? Anybody who is outside of your circle whom we can vulnerably share and brainstorm. I think that would be the most helpful.
Oh, these tips. I hope somebody is listening to this and like, oh my gosh, I have things to do. I hope you are. And then you go buy a planner and then you go, oh, I hope you do all of these things because this has been amazing. Are there any last minute sprinkles that you want to share with the audience today?
Yeah, I actually have a LinkedIn Live series talking about boundaries and also a bunch of topics that we should talk about as a population, and the title is Why Are We Not Talking About? It'll be on Tuesday afternoons, Eastern Time. Follow me on LinkedIn and we'll chat there. And the last thing I also want to say, if there's anything you can take away from today also, is that everyone is struggling at some point. The President of the United States, CEO of big companies, janitors, teachers, whoever that you look up to or not, we are all facing something, and many of us are just faking it till we make it. And so have faith in yourself and go on, go forth, and leave your impact on the world.
Oh my goodness. Somebody is going to hear this and immediately be like, damn it, I am getting my shit together and I'm going to go do something with my life today. Thank you so much, Xin Yi, for just bringing everything that we needed in this space. And to everybody who's listening, keep setting those boundaries and saying absolutely not to everything unaligned. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Absolutely Not. Your support means the world to me. You can always further support the show by leaving a review or visiting the Support the Mission page on my website, www.katrinastroll.com. My website is also where you can register for upcoming live episodes, watch amazing past episodes of Absolutely Not, and buy Absolutely Not merch. Yay! Until next time, keep setting those boundaries and saying absolutely not to anything unaligned. See you next time.